Hello, Quentin, Idjit Reads and Rambles, and I'm gonna ramble on about 5 albums that changed my life for sure. This is gonna be less a discussion of the actual albums than about their impact on me. So I guess first is actually not one album, it's 2 albums. But number 5, I guess, would be 9 Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral, and Death Grips, The Powers That Be. Hell yes to these albums, but these albums kind of represented a pretty important time in my life where I was getting into kind of edgier stuff. I was getting into more aggressive music, more experimental music, and they kind of really clearly illustrated, they helped me clearly define certain problems in my life. You know what I mean? They weren't the same problems, if they were, but they weren't the same problems as those 2 albums present. But it kind of helped, define these problems in my life and kind of show me that there's a true thrill and I guess they helped me experience the thrill and the sort of fulfillment of just breaking through them in some kind of extreme, and the catharsis of them just really helped get me through some tough times. You know what I mean? And I really do appreciate them for that. And also they just helped me get into really experimental and aggressive music, and that was something that would really forecast what went on in the future with my music taste. All right, what else do we got? Number 4, I got a tie between 2 hip-hop albums. I have The Impossible Kid by A$AP Rock, my favorite A$AP Rock album. So many great lines, songs, everything. Specifically Get Out of the Car. And then The Roots, How I Get Over. And these are 2 albums that I don't relate directly to again, but I pick certain things out of the story of these albums and I hold on to them and I'm like, yes, I told this is me. You know what I mean? And it's really interesting because those first 2 albums that I talked about, The Downward Spiral and Powers That Be, those are albums that for me were all about finding the catharsis in these problems. And both of those albums kind of revel in their problems, specifically The Downward Spiral and songs like On GP are just pure catharsis. But these albums, the How I Got Over and The Impossible Kid, are about actively working through and recovering from these issues, which was a key thing for me to be exposed to. After that, I needed the A$AP Rock and the title song from this, specifically like the first, I think, like 4 or 5 big songs on here, like Walk Alone, Radio Days, Now or Never, How I Got Over. Hell yes, these are just albums to help pick you up when you're in just the toughest of times. And really awesome for albums to foreground recovery and just to, again, maybe you're not in a position to fully get there at some point, but being exposed to it is what's important because it plants the seed, and then maybe you come back to it when you need a little bit of hope, And I have the lyrics to Get Out of the Car by A$AP Rock memorized. It's also really funny, a lot of years about growing old and not understanding the youth of today. So many great ones on that. There's a song called Rings on The Impossible Kid that's all about not writing and not painting for a long time, and then letting that die in you, and that's no good. Yeah, it's a pretty sad, that's a pretty sad reflection. But at the same time, if you're not in a position where you've already started letting it die, it's really helpful, and you can help motor forward on that. Especially with A$AP Rock, it's kind of, that album's about kind of getting out of your own sort of densely woven inner world and reaching out of that for recovery. There's an awesome song called Shrunk about going to the therapist. But The Roots, that's a very spiritual album for me, and very very healing. And I can't really get into the lyrics, but again, I don't relate directly, but the emotions of those and the focus on recovery really helped me move through a lot of those tough times. Third, for a different reason, is Joe Jackson's I'm the Man. What an awesome cover this is. This is a great album. I say go listen to it. The second half is a little weaker than the first, but such awesome displays of self-affirmation. You're gonna hear me on your radio, You're gonna hear me on your radio. Yeah, awesome. Awesome songs. But the reason this is so important to me was because this is the first album that my dad recommended this to me, and it was the first album. When you're growing up and you're becoming a man, and I think an adult in general, of course you know your parents, but there's a point where you start relating to your parents on a level that is less father-son and more human to human, or more father-son, father-daughter, mother-son, mother-daughter. And you start relating to them as people and relating to them on their own level. And this was the first album that I kind of wormed my way into his adult world with. And this is the first album that I related to with him directly about. We always listen to this when we go fishing. I always play it when we go fishing. Yeah, and this isn't the reason that I'm close with my dad or anything, but it's definitely one of the things about this is that this is our album forever. And I just really have so many great memories with this album, have so many great memories fishing with my father, that it's got to be in there, because that album comes to mind when I've been away from him for a while. Yeah, I'm a bit of a softie. I'm sorry. Number two, wait, that is three, right? Yeah, number two. This is gonna seem a little weird. I don't have a physical copy of this, by the way, but this is gonna seem a little weird, but bear with me. Speak Now by Taylor Swift. First of all, Taylor Swift's got some bangers. You best realize it, and you best get off your high horse, because there are some slaps on that album. But this one's another one with a lot of history for me as well, because my sister used to play a lot of ringette, and we would go to places like Sudbury, North Bay, sometimes down south, and she would go to all those places. She bought the Speak Now CD, so she would play this all the time, and I was like, oh my god, this is some trash ass music. I hate this, blah blah. And over a while, I started to really like it. It's awesome. It's such a great display of like naive joy, and contextualizing it in those last albums, 9 Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral, Death Grips, The Powers That Be. Those are albums that revel, and they're all about catharsis. You know what I mean? But then we move on to How I Got Over and The Impossible Kid, and it's about kind of moving on from that. And Taylor Swift Speak Now was the thing that I heard it when I was probably in like grade, I want to say 3 or 4 or something like that. And it was this constant reminder that, you do kind of need to retreat into this naive place where you can just dance around like an idiot for 10 minutes a day. And you kind of do need that to be better. I actually think the world would be a better place if people listened to Speak Now, if everyone listened to Speak Now every once in a while. But yeah, over a while, it came to, Speak Now was the type of moment that would push me towards the recovery from those issues. So it's great. I love it. On top of that, a lot of memories of my sister are just wrapped up in this album, and she's just one of the best people in my life. One of the greatest, but also just, I don't know, one of my favorite people ever. And yeah. Anyways, my best album, well, not best, my top album that changed my life has to be Childish Gambino, Because the Internet. This is one of the first albums that spoke to me from the internet generation, because, I'm a child of the internet. I grew up with it. I grew up on things like message boards and all of that, and seeing the way that Donald Glover picks internet everything apart, and just really articulates the apathy, but also the sort of connection, but a lot of these sort of fake, the fake thrills and the unproductive spots that it has, like on songs like World Star. Also, Death by Numbers is an awesome transitional moment. But in general, this album spoke to me from the internet generation. It spoke to me as somebody who was, messing around with the ladies a little too much. And I don't think it endorses all that stuff. It more just, it frames all the exploits with ladies as kind of fights against apathy, which was really compelling for me at the time, because that's what it was with me too. You know what I mean? But also, this album gets really abstract and really beautiful. There are points like No Exit where it's all kind of, first of all, No Exit is the reference to the Jean-Paul Sartre play, and that kind of sparked an interest in philosophy for me from, I think this album came out when I was in grade 10 or grade 9 or something. And once I found that, I found this whole sort of world through philosophy and into literature that just understood me and really articulated what was going on with me, but also articulated potential solutions and maybe different ways to look at the world that are less kind of toxic. Because, I was a pretty troubled kid. Not, I was still functional. I was a mean basketball player, boy. I was killing it at the basketball. But that album was such a thing for me that I watched, or I listened to it. I felt understood. I was just totally sucked away with, I was totally sucked into how abstract but beautiful songs like Flight of the Navigator were. Earn is one of my favorites on there. The last song is so self-defeating but triumphant, where he basically, there's a point where he's like, I don't know who I am anymore. And then you get this like explosion of like, well, I'm still doing this, you know what I mean? And I love that. And that's totally kind of what I was feeling at that point. And again, set the stage for so many awesome, it set the stage for so many great things in my life to come. It conditioned me to like abrasive pieces of art. It conditioned me to like difficult things, to put in a little elbow grease to understand something that might benefit me. And overall, it was just the closest of friends in a time of great need, even though I'm probably not the target audience for it. And some of these, but yeah, those are 5 albums that really did change my life, and they changed my life like crazy. I don't think I'd be the same person without any of these albums, specifically because of the internet, because that was such a huge thing for me. Yeah, what else? Songs I'm gonna link for each one. I think I'm gonna link Life the Biggest Troll from Because of the Internet. I think I'm gonna link Sparks Fly is a banger, but Back to December all the time. I don't know which one I'm gonna link from Speak Now. On the 3rd, I'm gonna link, I gotta see the track list. Friday's great. I think Kinda Cute I'm gonna link. Kinda Cute, or maybe On Your Radio. I'm gonna link How I Got Over from The Roots. I'm going to link I love Tough from Aesop Rock, but I think I'm gonna link probably Rings from Aesop Rock, and then I'm gonna link On GP from The Powers That Be, and probably I don't want to link Hurt because everyone knows Hurt. Probably Eraser from The Downward Spiral. But yeah, thanks a lot. I'm sorry for thinking so much. If you want a good video from me, I'd say, what? You want a good video from an idiot? But yeah, anyways, that's about it. Peace and groovy. 5 albums that changed my life. What are some albums and books too, and really films, anything that changed your life? Let me know. Peace and groovy. Thanks for watching.